Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to A.O.S. Abroad, and thank you very, very much for joining today's episode or today's live session. We really do appreciate every one of you for joining once again to learn and to actually be part of this wonderful conversation. And this conversation, we are going to be centering it on a lot of things as regards um, work permits, especially work permits from coming. Let me take this out of the way. So, especially work permits from inside Canada. Now, there have been a lot of questions as regards work permits, and a lot of people have been asking questions that, can I get jobs? You understand, in Canada? And in fact, many, hi, hi, hello. So, again, a lot of people have been asking questions as regards that, and we wanted to take the time today to explain to each and every one of us what you need to know about the aspects of job offers in Canada. Do you understand? Someone is actually getting off out of the look at the parking lot, and I'm at the parking lot right now while having this video. So please bear with me the noise from the car. I don't know. That car is something else. All right. So moving on. Work permits. When people hear work permits, people always want, oh, yes, I need a job. Oh, yes, I want to earn in Canada. Greener pastures. If you remember, for those that were in our last live session, when I was talking about greener pastures, I explained that part of the things people see as greener pastures is, yes, getting access to better jobs, getting access to, oh, okay, Mrs. Godson, Mary Peggy, hello. Yeah, hi, ma. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you are going to also benefit from this conversation today. So, a lot of people have been talking about work permits, and the question goes thus: who can apply for work permits from within Canada? And why are we talking about within Canada today? Is because many people are more or less stranded in Canada already, and especially people that came through visit visa or came through refugee claim or applied for refugee, or people that came, you understand, to visit their loved ones who are international students or people. You understand, different sets of people are in Canada right now, and many people would like to know that. Oh, okay, how can I actually get work permits so that I can sustain myself in Canada? Because Canada, one way or the other, it will humble you when it comes to bills. Bills don't stop. So you have to actually be working whilst you are, you understand, residing in Canada. So today we want to take the article that was written and published by Caroline Minks on CICnews.com. For many of you, you know, sometimes we come on and we analyze, we dissect, and we review the articles that are written on the CIC, the Canada Immigration and Citizenship News website. So today is not going to be different. Today we are going to be reviewing this article, which summarizes who can apply for a work permit from within Canada. It didn't even summarize it, it explained it in details. So we are going to be taking it one by one to explain it to each and every one of us. So, moving on, they said foreign nationals typically must apply for work permits from outside Canada. So, if you are outside Canada, basically, you need to apply for work permits. And there's always a caveat to it. You can't apply for work permits from outside of Canada without getting a job offer. You understand? Without getting a job offer, you can apply for work permits from outside Canada most times. So, a lot of people are looking for a bet. And that's a lot of things consultants and lawyers will tell people that, okay, if you truly want to get a job, you understand, you can first of all come into Canada in some ways. Once you come into Canada, then you can actually now apply for what we know as the work permit. Now there are now different types of work permits. We have open work permits, we have closed work permits, we have spousal work permits, we have bridging open work permit. There are quite a lot. So here we are going to analyze work permits and how would you qualify to get some of those work permits if you are inside of Canada already. Now, they said certain individuals, however, may apply from within the country of Canada, provided they fall into one of the situations outlined by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. So, if you are part of the sect of people that came into Canada one way or the other that we are going to explain today, you can apply for work permit from inside of Canada. Do you understand? It's very possible. Whilst you are inside Canada, you can apply for it. Now, they said now there are nine scenarios in which IRCC allows foreign nationals to apply for a work permit from within Canada. You understand? Before it was like 10, but due to the temporary policy or temporary measure of Canada that allowed visitors to apply for work permit if they get a job from inside Canada has been cancelled, then people don't have any opportunity to come into Canada as a visitor and, you understand, apply for work permit again. But there are other ways you can come into Canada and still get that work permit. So let's talk about those nine different scenarios. They said any one of you that doesn't fall into these nine scenarios must apply from outside Canada, either online, or if you're eligible, you can apply from the port of entry. So what do they mean is that if, for instance, you're a visitor, you're in Canada, you may not have the opportunity to apply for work permit. You may have to leave Canada first, do you understand? And now apply from outside Canada. But again, even if you are a visitor already, you can still look into some of these ways to see if you qualify and if you can actually apply from still inside Canada, but you may have to just change your status for it. Now, let's explain what we mean by all this. Now, they said this article will touch on each respective scenario as well as how you can maintain your status. How can you maintain your status and how can you apply for what? For a work permit. Now, scenario one, we have the first scenario. You have a valid study or work permit. If you are already in Canada and you are an international student already, or you are a temporary foreign worker, then you can actually apply for work permit. To qualify under this scenario, you must already be in possession of a valid study permit or a work permit issued by IRCC, and you must be physically present in what? In Canada. That's the first scenario for those who have study permit. However, your study permit will remain valid. Your permit will remain valid until the expiration of the until the date of the expiration. You understand? So, which is typically outlined on the permit. So, what this means is that you must apply for a work permit prior to the expiry date listed on your original permit to be considered on this basis. So if you have a study permit, for instance, that will expire in 2027, you must apply before the year 2027 before you get, so in order to get the work permit that you so desire. So if your study or work permit has already expired, then you no longer qualify under this scenario. You understand? And IRCC will recommend applying for a work permit at least 30 days prior to what your existing permit expiration. Now, here's an example. You are already in Canada on an employer-specific work permit, but have just been terminated from your place of employment. You secure a job offer from a new employer and apply for a new work permit 31 days before your work status in Canada expires. Because you applied for a new work permit before your status expired, you are eligible for consideration under this category. Now, scenario two. The scenario two is that your spouse or your common law partner or your parent has a valid study or work permit. Now, this is very good, and this is where we always talk about OSSD, for instance, that if you have a child that came into Canada through Ontario Secondary School Diploma, the child is currently studying, but you have to take care of yourself. You can actually apply for work permit by the virtue of your child actually becoming a student and studying in Canada. So if your spouse, your common law partner, or your parent was permitted entry into Canada to study or work, you understand, and their permit has yet to expire, you may apply for a work permit provided you meet all general eligibility work permit requirements. So sorry, I think I made a mistake. I was talking about OSSD for the child. OSSD for the parents now, or it may not be OSSD, it may be normal study permits for post-graduation or bachelor's degree for the what? For the parents. If you do that, then your child can have benefit of actually being able to apply for work permit. Do you understand? Now, let's move on. They are telling us that, take for example, for the following example, your spouse has been attending a 4-year program at an Ontario university and officially completed their studies 10 days ago. Because study permits are typically valid for the length of an individual study program, plus an additional 90 days following the completion of one's own studies, you still have 80 days to apply for a work permit from within Canada. Do you understand? So if your spouse or your common law partner or your parent is in Canada as a temporary worker, do you understand? You may also apply for what a work permit of your own, permitted their work permit is still valid. So if you have someone that, okay, he was a student before, he's not a temporary foreign worker, you that you are the spouse, or you that you are the parent, you that you are the common law partner, you can also apply for work permit by virtue of that person still having his own status valid. That's the second scenario. The third scenario is your study permit is valid and you qualify for a post-graduation work permit. Now, there are different types of work permits, just like I've said. The ones we were talking about before is the open work permit. You understand? This one is the post-graduation work permit. Normally, if you are a student, you understand, and you are a student that qualifies under the postgraduate work permit degrees, you can get that PGWP. So foreign nationals in Canada on a study permit, if eligible, you understand, you have 180 days to apply for what a post-graduation work permit PGWP from the date that your school issues your final marks, the final grades that you got. So PGWPs are open work permit as well, OWPs, meaning you can work for almost any employer in Canada. Sorry, let me drink water. All right, Asiwaju Ayobami Moise on Facebook. He said you are interested. Okay, no problem. If you are interested, um, reach out to us. We'll send you our website. What happened now? This one that I'm just let's go on our website. Read the information there. Follow the guidelines that has been stated there, and of course, we can assist you and also refer you to our immigration consultants that would be of assistance to you. So click on the link that is showing on your screen now, aos.name.ng, or you can just go on our bio. Once you go on our bio, click on the link on the bio, and of course, we can assist you with your processing through our consultants. Now, moving on. They said for PGWPs, they are open work permits, meaning that you can work for almost any employer in Canada and are not bound to a specific location or employer. What that means is that you may be in Ontario today and leave and go to Quebec and go and work, or go to British Columbia and go and work. Because it's an open work permit, you can work in anywhere at all you desire in Canada. And you are not automatically eligible for a PGWP, however, simply by graduating from a designated learning institution in Canada. To fall under this scenario, you must have a study permit that has yet to expire, meaning your student status is still valid, and you must meet all the eligibility criteria categories requiring you to qualify for a PGWP. And what is that criteria? Yes, the general eligibility requirements based on the study program. That means the study program you are studying must be an in-demand program before you can qualify. Again, you must have eligibility criteria based on physical location. That means where you are actually studying also matters. Field of study requirements, if applicable. There are some fields of studies that are eligible for postgraduate. It's not all fields of studies that are, you understand, eligible right now. Now, if your study permit is still valid at the time you wish to apply, but you did not qualify for a PGWP due to not meeting one or more of the requirements as part of the eligibility criteria categories listed above, you cannot apply for a PGWP from within Canada. Now, I told you there are different types of work permits. Even if you were in school or you finished from school, you are not qualified for PGWP, which would last for 1 year if it is a 1 year program, or 3 years if it is a 2 year or more program. You can still qualify for the ordinary open work permit. That is, if of course you get a job, you understand, and you use that job to actually apply for work permits. Now, this scenario 4 is you, your spouse, and or parent has a temporary residence permit with a validity of 6 months or more. Do you understand? Now, a temporary resident permit (TRP) enables individuals who are otherwise inadmissible or have failed to comply with the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act (ARPA) and its regulations to enter Canada temporarily, provided one, they can show a valid and justified reason for entering the country, and two, their entry into Canada does not threaten the safety or security of Canadian society. Now, what does the TRP mean? The temporary resident permit. Temporary resident permit is basically a kind of permit that they give you if, for instance, you have a medical issue that is fatal and Canada sees you as a threat to the healthcare system, because they would have to pay more for your fatal illness or for your deadly disease, and they are trying to actually avoid that. So because of that, they give you a temporary resident permit for just a particular time. But when you came in, your spouse came in with you, then that your spouse can apply for work permit and be working in Canada, or that your parent, that your child rather can apply for open work permit and be working, you understand, in Canada, whilst you have the TRP. So only complying and justifiable circumstances are considered by officers when reviewing your TRP application, and you need to enter and your need to enter must outweigh any potential risk to Canadian society. Why do you need to enter Canada? Maybe, for instance, you have mental issues or medical problems, for instance, and the only place you can get very good treatment is Canada. Yes, you are paying for it yourself. It's not that the government is paying for it because you are not a permanent resident. You can enter Canada if you are not going to be a threat to the Canadian society. Criminality is another thing that they use to make people inadmissible. So if you have gone into criminal rehabilitation, you have maybe served your term in jail or that kind of thing, and they see that okay, you may not be a threat again into the Canadian society, they can consider you for the TRP. And if they consider you for the TRP, by virtue of you getting the temporary resident permit, the TRP, your spouse or your common law partner or your what or your child can actually be working whilst you are actually year under that permit. Now, examples of compelling circumstances include business-related travel, visiting a seriously ill person or dying family member, or attending significant family events. So if you are someone that you have criminal history, you understand, and you have maybe like your mother that is sick in the hospital that you need to come and visit in Canada, Canada can give you the TRP for that particular time, and your spouse can be working whilst you have that TRP. Now, TRPs can be issued for periods of time depending on the length of the visit to Canada, upon up to a maximum of 3 years. Do you understand? Now, to be eligible to apply for work permit from within Canada, you, your spouse, or your parents must have received a TRP with a validity period of at least 6 months. Do you understand? So that's the fourth scenario. Now, the fifth scenario is you have submitted an application for permanent residence and are awaiting a decision. Now, this is very important, especially for those that applied under PMP or applied under RNIP. Oh, that one has even gone now. RICP or FCIP or RCIP. You understand? Many of these people may have to get a work permit first before they get a permanent resident status. So IRCC states that only those waiting on decisions for permanent resident applications for the following classes are permitted to apply for a work permit from within Canada. So one, the spouse and common law partner in Canada class or overseas family class. So people that came in under family sponsorship. Two, the TRP holder class, which is the temporary resident permit we talked about. Now take the following example, which falls under the first bullet above. You as a temporary foreign worker on an employer specific work permit and your spouse, a Canadian citizen, are both living together in Canada and you want to become a permanent resident in Canada. So your spouse is willing to sponsor you as your sponsor. You submit an inland sponsorship application and you are now waiting for IRCC to process and make a decision on your application. Do you understand? Now, your worker status expires in what? Expires in 3 weeks, and you would like to apply for an open work permit. So you may be eligible to do so if you can prove that you are in a genuine relationship with that your spouse who is a citizen of Canada, your sponsor, if you have received an acknowledgement of receipt AOR letter for your permanent residence application, meaning IRCC has received and has begun processing your permanent residence application. And lastly, if you can prove that you are living with your sponsor in Canada, that means you are not in different places, you are in the same building, in the same house, living together. That is the scenario 5. A lot of people may not fall into that because it's more or less complex. But scenario 6 is for you are allowed to work in Canada without a work permit but you require what we know as what? You require a work permit for a different job. Now, in most cases, what we find out is that those intending to work in Canada requires a work permit to do so. You understand? But in certain scenarios, individuals may be able to perform work in Canada without a work permit, though they may still require a temporary resident visa, the TRV, to enter Canada temporarily. So let's look at those kind of people. The following scenarios consider individuals or consist of individuals who may be able to conduct work in Canada without a work permit. One, foreign representatives and their personal staff and family members. If, for instance, you are a representative, or you understand, someone from another country, like an ambassador. Two, you are a military personnel from the country of your residence. You are an American cross-border maritime law enforcement officer, or you are an in-flight security officer, or you are those engaged in on-campus employment. You understand? That means you are working whilst you are schooling in your campus, or you are a performing artist. You know, artists that come into Canada to perform, like, you understand, from other countries, because they are given a visit visa, may not actually require the work permit to work. You understand? Or you are a professional or amateur athlete and you have your team members with you, then those kind of people, they don't need work permit normally. You are a news reporter or a media, you are part of a media crew, you may not require work permit. You are a guest speaker or commercial speaker and a seminar leader, you may work in Canada without a work permit. If you are a convention or conference organizer, if you are a clergy such as ordained ministers, lay people, or members of a religious order, you may not need a job work permit to work. If you are a judge, a referee, or you are a similar official of amateur events and competitions, you may not require a job offer. If you are a profession, if you are a professor rather, or a researcher examining or evaluating student thesis or project, you may not require a work permit to work. If you are an expert witness or investigator, if you are a healthcare student participating in clinical clerkships of short-term practicum, you may not require to work. You may not require work permit to work. If you are a civil aviation inspector, if you are an aviation accident or incident inspector, if you are a crew member working on a means of foreign owned transportation, and you are a certain emergency service provider, all these people may not require a work permit to be able to work in Canada. So IRCC makes clear that business visitors do not qualify under this scenario. So you cannot come into Canada as a business visitor and qualify under this scenario. If you fall under any of the aforementioned examples of individuals permitted to work in Canada without a work permit, then you can actually apply for a work permit from within Canada to work in a different job. Do you understand? So let's say you came into Canada to work as a performing artist, but you now want to work in another role. Maybe you want to work, you understand, as an actor or something else apart from that. Then you can get a work permit to work in a different role entirely, different job. Now, individuals with maintained status, if you have a maintained, what who are the people that have maintained status? People that have maintained status are people, maybe you are a visitor, you have applied for permanent residence, you are waiting feedback on your permanent residence application. You can also qualify in this sense to continue working under the conditions, or to start working, you understand, under the conditions of, okay, no, they said to continue working under the condition of expired work permit. So that means this one is for people that are temporary residents, temporary foreign workers. You will be able to apply for a new work permit before the original permit expires, and before a decision is made on your new application. Now, scenario 7: if you are in Canada as a professional, intra-company transferee, a trader or investor under CUSMA. CUSMA is an acronym under which means the Canada United States Mexico Agreement. So this is a free trade agreement between the three countries, the three North American countries. Do you understand? And certain US, sorry about that, certain US or Mexican citizens can apply for work permits if they fall under one of the eligible categories. Now, US or Mexico citizens, they must have a qualifying job offer, just like the rest of other people, and they must meet all the required eligibility criteria for the category and the profession they are eligible for. Now, the eligible categories and who they are for can be found in the table below. I'm not going to stress so much on it because this is already much already, and time is not really on our side. But professionals, if you are professionals in the US, Mexico, or United, or you understand, which other, okay, US or Mexico, there's no other Canada. If you are a citizen of any of those countries with a job offer, a Canadian based job offer in one of the 63 eligible professions, who also have the required education or alternative what credentials or requirements, you can click on the link to actually learn more about the professions. Two, if you're an intra-company transferee, that means your company is based in Mexico before, but you want to come to work in Canada, still with that company because it's an international company. Then yes, executives like you, senior functional managers, specialized knowledge employees employed by a multinational company continuously for 1 year in the last 3 years, seeking to work in a parent or subsidiary or branch or affiliate of that company in Canada can actually come to work in Canada. Again, if you are a trader, maybe as an executive, supervisor, or employees with essential skills with the intention of engaging in substantial trade of goods and services between the country of their citizenship and Canada, then you can come into Canada and get that work permit. If you're an investor, an executive, a supervisor, an employee with essential skills, do you understand, who have made or are actively making a substantial investment in a company in Canada of US or Mexican nationality, then of course you can also come into Canada and get that work permit to actually work. Now, the second to the last scenario is scenario 8. That is, if you will or already have made a claim for refugee protection. Now, a lot of people that come into Canada that say, you don't need to go and waste time looking for a job. You don't need to just come into Canada as a visitor first. When you come into Canada, you can't okay. When you can't okay, you get a work permit. This is what they are saying. This is what they are saying. So if you are currently present in Canada and have applied to IRCC for refugee protection, asylum basically, you may be eligible to apply for what? For a work permit from within Canada. And to be eligible for this status, you must have a well-founded fear of persecution. Or if you return back to your country, you believe that the following will be true. You'll be in danger or torture, your life is at risk, and you are at risk of being subjected to cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. So basically, they want to kill you in your own country. You understand? You are not safe in your home country. So you must be able to prove it to prove that you cannot return to your home country or the country you normally live in due to factors such as your race, such as your religion, such as your political opinion, such as your nationality, or because you belong to a particular social group. Do you understand? Now, if you are stateless, that means you don't have any country, you don't know any country. You understand? Dowole Kayode, thank you very much for liking our live session on what's on Facebook. Now, if you are stateless, you don't have any country to your name, you are not a citizen of any country, and you are unable to return to the country you normally live in due to the above, then you may also be eligible for what? To apply for work permit from within inside Canada. Now, the last scenario, we have talked about a lot of scenarios, and I'll still break down all the scenarios into 2 to 3 ones that, okay, for someone that you don't have anything, do this, do this, do this. I'll still give you that scenario, or I'll still give you those options. But let's just finish the scenario. Scenario 9, you are a convention refugee or a protected person. So to fall under this scenario, the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, IRB, they must have assessed your case and found that you meet the eligibility criteria outlined in the scenario 8 above to be considered a convention refugee. So to be a protected person, the IRB must have found that you are in need of protection or you are a convention refugee. You may also be considered as a protected person if IRCC gave a positive decision on your what, on your pre-removal risk assessment, the PRRA, the PRA. Now, if you fall under either of these two designations and meet all other criteria, you may be eligible to apply for what? To apply for a work permit from within Canada, inside Canada. Now, we were talking about the maintained status before, and some people may be asking, what's the maintained status? All temporary residents are permitted entry into Canada as either visitor, as worker, or student. Now, I want you to listen to this. And you are expected to leave. Look at it. They say you are expected to leave Canada at the end of your authorized stay. That is it. You are expected to leave. However, they are now saying you may be able to remain in Canada past the expiration date of your permit under what we know as the maintained status. And maintained status allows you to stay in Canada under the conditions of your original permit while IRCC processes your work permit application. And a decision is made provided that you remain in Canada if you do not leave Canada whilst they are still processing your application. Now, you can only benefit from maintained status if you apply for a new permit before your original permit expires. And if you are in Canada already as a temporary foreign worker, you are authorized to continue working under the same conditions of your current permit until a decision is made on your application. And you're saying is that international students can continue to study under their study permit original conditions, and visitors can continue to reside within Canada while IRCC processes their work permit application. Now, maintained status will only remain in effect while you remain in Canada and until IRCC makes a decision on your application. So if you leave Canada, you went for vacation to the US or any other place, you will immediately lose your maintained status. Do you understand? Now, how can you apply for a work permit? We have talked about the different scenarios of work permit. How can you apply for a work permit within Canada? They say, firstly, you must meet the requirement for the particular work permit you wish to apply for. So you have to assess, and that's where our consultant and our pre-evaluation process comes in. Out of all these 9 scenarios, you may be eligible for two or three, or even just one. You have to know the one you are eligible for so that you don't focus on the wrong scenario and now apply for the wrong scenario and now get rejected. In most cases, you will be required to apply online unless you cannot do so because of a disability. There is an issue with an online application, or you are applying for a study or work permit and a TRP at the same time. Now, to study a work permit application or to submit a work permit application from within Canada through your IRCC secure account, you will have to do the following. One, you have to read the instruction guide in its entirety. Understand what they are telling you to do in the instruction guide. Don't go and make mistake. 2, ensure that you meet all eligibility requirements for the scenario you are applying for under, as these would vary scenario to scenario. The scenarios dictate how you are going to apply. So you have to ensure that you meet all the general work permit eligibility requirements, including the following. You have to satisfy the immigration officer that you will return to your home country once your employment period concludes. Some people always think if they give them work permits, then that means they can stay in Canada permanently. No, it doesn't work that way. Even after you get your work permit, you can still, or you are still required to leave the country once your work permit has expired. 2, you have to provide proof that you have sufficient funds to take care of yourself and any family members, if applicable, while you are in Canada and when you return home. 3, you have to be criminally and medically admissible to Canada and not be considered a danger to the security of Canada. And if asked by IRCC, you have to provide a police clearance certificate, 1. You have to provide biometrics, 2. And you have to complete a medical examination if they require it, if the ones you have done have not expired. Now, fill out the appropriate forms is the next thing you need to do, outlined in your auto-generated document checklist. There's always a checklist IRCC will give you to adhere to based on the questions you answer in a form. So that checklist, they will list it out, all the documents you need to actually submit. So you have to provide the major documents, the primary document and the supporting document required for your unique situation. And of course, you have to pay the work permit processing fee, which is $155, and then the $100 open work permit OWP processing fee, if that is applicable to you, and any other fees, if applicable, like the biometrics fee of $85, the police clearance, and the, you understand, medical examination and all others. So you have to submit the application afterwards and wait for IRCC to make a decision once you have submitted the document and filled out all the forms. So make sure that you also keep a copy of your documents, your filled in forms, and the payment receipts for any future references. And of course, the processing time, the current processing time for work permit applications submitted from within Canada is 233 days. Yes, 233 days. People say, ah, that's long time. Yeah, it's long time, but again, it can be a very good time to help you actually still stay in Canada legally whilst you are waiting for a response from your application, because that's about 7 to 8 months. So 7 to 8 months is considered a good time. Though some people can get a work permit faster than 7 to 8 months. It's not compulsory that everybody gets their work permit after 7 months or after it or within 8 months. No, it's not compulsory. You can get it faster than that. They're just giving you averages of how long they have taken to process all other applications that have come up. Now, the last comment, they said you will not be issued a work permit beyond the expiry date of your travel documents. So you have to check your passport's validity prior to applying and renew it if it is needed. Before you apply, some people shoot themselves on the leg. You want a work permit and your passport is expiring maybe June 2026, for instance. Yes, June 20, from now to June 2026 is 1 year. It's more than 1 year. But they may have given you a work permit of more than 1 year. Maybe they wanted to give you a work permit of 2 years, 3 years. But because your passport, the validity is just 1 year, they can't extend the work permit above the validity of the passport. So you may be wise. It may be wise of you that before you apply for a work permit, if I was you, I would go and renew my international passport. In fact, I can renew it and make it 10 years, a 10 years valid international passport, so that they will give me the maximum amount of years that they want to give me as a work permit holder in Canada before, because of course I know they can't give me 10 years work permit. It's not possible. But at least if they want to give 2 years, 3 years, they can give me the maximum. And I'm not going to be the one that will not be doing myself and just collect 1 year work permit. Do you understand? So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you understood many of the things that we did today. If you have any questions, drop it on the comment section. I would really like to take it right now. And we get to the end of the concluding aspects for me. For me, if you are outside of Canada and you want to come inside Canada and work, I would suggest you follow any of these three pathways. Yes, we have talked about 9 scenarios, but focusing on things may really help you to know what you are going to, you understand, have the opportunity to qualify for. So you can come into Canada as a student initially, pay the tuition fee, you understand, get enrolled in a program that is having postgraduate work permit, so that almost automatically when you finish school, you have access to postgraduate work permits for 1 year or 3 years, as the case may be. Two, if you want to come into Canada as a visitor, many people will say, yes, come to Canada as a visitor. When you come to Canada, you apply for asylum. That could work, even though I don't suggest it. But that is another way many people are coming into Canada for. You understand? So you can come in as a visitor, apply for a refugee or asylum, and by virtue of that application, you may be granted the work permit. You may be able to apply for the work permit and get it. The last way is to come in directly from your own country as a temporary foreign worker. You understand? Try to get a job from your home country, and with that job, apply for work permits. That may be what would also help you to actually avoid any stories that touch. So, thank you very much, everyone. And with this, we do come to the end. If you have any questions, again, as I said, drop it in the comment section. If you would like us to assist you, you understand, and work with you together with our consultant and immigration lawyer, go on that link aos.name.ng to actually get all the requirements, all the needs, all the information you need about your immigration to Canada. And of course, you can also check our profile, check our bio, whether be it on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, or on TikTok, to actually learn about our website, aos.name.ng. Click on it and get, you understand, get directed to the what? Get directed to our website, our webpage. So thank you very much once again, everyone. Don't forget, every week, at least once a week, we come on live to talk about trending topics. And one of the trending topic we were meant to even talk about today was the new immigration minister. You understand, Lina Diab, that was actually appointed by the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. And we never expected this, but of course it has happened. And we hope that our own tenure is going to be beneficial to a lot of immigrants within Canada and outside Canada. So with that, we will actually leave you. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get notified as well anytime we come on live or we drop a content. And please, if you have any questions, even after this live session, don't hesitate to actually drop a comment. You understand? Reach out to us on our email, admin@aosacademy.com, and we would always do justice to responding to you. So thank you very much, everyone, once again, and do have a lovely day ahead. Bye for now.